Imagine a young boy who loved ideas more than toys, questions more than answers. That boy grew up to change how the entire world uses computers. This is not just a story about technology, it is a story about curiosity, obsession, mistakes, power, and purpose. Today, let's step inside the life of Bill Gates and discover how one mind helped shape the modern world. On a quiet night in Seattle, rain tapped softly against the windows of a large family home. Inside, a young boy sat on the floor, surrounded by books. While other children dreamed about sport or adventure, this boy was lost in thought, imagining invisible worlds made of logic and ideas. His name was Bill Gates, and long before the world knew it. His mind was already racing ahead of time. Bill was not born into poverty or struggle. His family valued learning, conversation, and curiosity. At the dinner table, discussions were not small or shallow. Ideas were challenged. Opinions were questioned. Bill learned early that thinking deeply mattered. His parents noticed something unusual about him. He could focus for long periods. He asked difficult questions. When he became interested in something, it was almost impossible to pull him away. At school, Bill did well, but he was not always happy. He felt bored in class. Lessons moved too slowly for his restless mind. He wanted more challenge, more complexity, more puzzles to solve. Teachers saw his intelligence, but they also saw his stubbornness. Bill did not like being told what to do unless it made sense to him. Everything changed the day Bill discovered computers. At that time, computers were not small or friendly. They were large machines hidden in special rooms. Most people had never touched one. But when Bill first sat in front of a computer terminal, something clicked deep inside him. The screen showed a strange language made of symbols and commands. To others, it looked confusing. To Bill, it looked like a new kind of playground. He began spending hours learning how computers thought. He learned how to speak their language. He made mistakes again and again. But he never felt tired. Each error was a clue. Each failure taught him something new. While other students went home after school, Bill stayed late, typing commands, testing ideas, and losing track of time. It was during these long hours that Bill met others like him. One of them was a boy named Paul Allen. Paul was older, calmer, and just as obsessed with computers. Together, they formed a partnership built on shared curiosity and endless ambition. They talked about the future constantly. They believed computers would one day be everywhere, not just in schools or companies, but in homes. At the time, this idea sounded strange. Computers were expensive and complicated. Most adults laughed at the thought. But Bill and Paul did not laugh. They planned. Bill became known for his intense personality. When he worked completely. He argued fiercely. He challenged everyone around him. He demanded perfection, not only from others, but from himself. Some people found him difficult. Others found him inspiring. But no one doubted his intelligence. As Bill grew older, his love for computers grew stronger. While many of his classmates dreamed of traditional careers, Bill dreamed of software. He believed that software was the true power behind machines. Hardware could be built by anyone, he thought, but software could change the world. When Bill went to college, his reputation followed him. He attended classes, but his heart was not fully there. His real classroom was still the computer lab. Late at night, while the campus slept, Bill worked on programs, ideas, and experiments. He felt alive in those quiet hours when it was just him and the machine. One day, news spread about a new type of computer being developed. It was smaller and designed for personal use. Bill immediately understood its importance. This was the moment he had been waiting for. He saw a future where ordinary people could use computers every day. But there was one problem. These new machines needed software to run. Bill saw an opportunity. Together with Paul, he made a bold decision. They contacted the company building the new computer and promised something they had not yet fully created. They promised software that would make the machine useful. It was a risky move, but Bill believed in learning faster than fear. For weeks, Bill worked without rest. He wrote code, tested programs, fixed errors, and rewrote entire systems. Sleep became optional. Food became an afterthought. His world narrowed to lines of code and blinking cursors. When the software was finally ready, it worked. Not perfectly, but well enough to prove the idea. That moment changed everything. Bill and Paul realized they were no longer just students or hobbyists. They were builders of the future. They started a small company, driven by belief rather than money. Bill left college behind, choosing uncertainty over comfort. Many people questioned his decision. Some called it reckless. Others called it foolish. Bill called it necessary. The company grew slowly at first. Long days turned into longer nights. Every problem felt urgent. Every success felt temporary. Bill pushed himself and his team relentlessly. He believed speed mattered. He believed control mattered. Most of all, he believed software would shape the modern world. As the company expanded, Bill became more intense. He reviewed every detail. He challenged every assumption. He demanded clarity and logic. Employees learned quickly that working with Bill was not easy. But they also learned that they were part of something important. The software they built began appearing on more computers. Slowly, quietly, it spread. Bill's vision was becoming reality. Computers were no longer distant machines. They were becoming personal tools, and his company's software was at the center of that change. Still, Bill was not satisfied. He knew this was only the beginning. Competition was coming. Bigger companies were watching. The future was uncertain, and mistakes could destroy everything. Bill understood that power brought responsibility, and success brought enemies. As the world began to notice his company, Bill prepared for the next battle. He refined his strategy. He strengthened his control. He believed that to win, he needed to think several steps ahead, standing at the edge of success. Bill Gates was no longer just a brilliant student or a passionate programmer. He was becoming something much larger. A leader. A competitor. A figure who would soon change how the world worked, communicated, and dreamed. But the greatest challenges were still ahead, and the decisions he would make next would define not only his life, but the future of technology itself. As Bill Gates stepped deeper into the world of business, the pressure around him grew heavier. His company was no longer small or invisible. It was now at the center of a rapidly changing world. Computers were spreading faster than anyone expected, and software had become the key that controlled them all. Bill understood something many others did not. Whoever controlled the software controlled the future. Inside the company, the atmosphere was intense. Meetings were long and demanding. Ideas were challenged again and again. Bill asked difficult questions, not because he wanted to be unkind, but because he wanted clarity. He believed weak ideas could destroy strong dreams. Some employees admired his brilliance. Others struggled under his high expectations. Still, many stayed because they knew they were building something historic. As more computers entered homes and offices, Bill's software became almost unavoidable. It was simple enough for beginners, yet powerful enough for professionals. Slowly, quietly, it became part of everyday life. People around the world began turning on their machines and seeing the same screen, the same commands, the same system guiding their work. With success came criticism. Competitors accused Bill of playing unfairly. Governments began to watch closely. Lawyers studied every decision. Newspapers wrote stories questioning his power. To many, Bill was no longer just a young genius. He was becoming a symbol of control in the technology world. Bill did not see himself that way. In his mind, he was still solving problems. He believed consistency mattered. He believed one system would help the world move faster. But others believed his company was growing too strong, too dominant, too influential. Courtrooms replaced classrooms. Legal battles replaced programming challenges. Bill found himself defending decisions he once made with pure excitement and ambition. These were difficult years. Stress followed him everywhere. His public image changed. He was no longer the quiet programmer behind a screen. He was a powerful figure under constant judgment. During this time, Bill began to change in subtle ways. He started reading more about the world beyond technology. He read about health, poverty, education, and disease. He learned how many people lived without clean water, basic medicine, or simple opportunities. The same mind that once obsessed over software now turned toward global problems. A personal shift began. Bill realized that success did not only bring wealth. It brought responsibility. He had resources that could do more than create products. They could save lives. This idea slowly grew inside him, reshaping his priorities. Eventually, Bill stepped away from daily leadership at his company. For many, this decision was surprising. To Bill, it felt necessary. He had spent years building systems for machines. Now he wanted to help build systems for people. Together with his wife, he created a foundation focused on improving lives around the world. They invested in healthcare, education, and disease prevention. Bill approached these challenges the same way he approached software. He studied data. He asked questions. He demanded results. Some people were skeptical. They wondered if a technology billionaire could truly understand human suffering. Others were grateful for the attention and resources he brought. Bill did not claim to have all the answers. He believed learning never stopped, traveling to different countries. Bill listened to doctors, teachers, and families. He saw problems that could not be solved with code alone. These experiences humbled him. They also strengthened his belief that progress required patience, cooperation, and empathy. Over time, the public image of Bill Gates softened. He was no longer seen only as a powerful businessman. He became a student of the world. Someone willing to admit mistakes. Someone focused on long-term impact rather than short-term praise. Still, criticism never fully disappeared. Some questioned his influence. Others doubted his intentions. Bill accepted this as part of leadership. He believed that meaningful work always attracted debate. What mattered most to him was action, not approval. Looking back, Bill often reflected on his younger self. The boy sitting on the floor, surrounded by books. The student staying late in computer labs. The programmer arguing passionately over tiny details. All those versions of himself still lived inside him, but now his definition of success had expanded. It was no longer just about building software used by millions. It was about improving lives he would never personally meet. It was about leaving the world better than he found it. Bill Gates' story is not just a story of intelligence or ambition. It is a story of evolution. A reminder that growth does not end with achievement. It continues through responsibility, humility, and purpose. From curious child to global figure, from programmer to philanthropist, his journey shows us that learning never truly stops. And that the greatest impact often comes not from what we build, but from how we choose to use it. I share stories like this every day. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.